We are back on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now in Albuquerque, New Mexico on 1000 KKIM. So, Clay, great conversation with Dr. Waleed Ferris. I really, really enjoy him. This is the third time we've had him on, and each time we have him, it's better and better.
Oh, no kidding. It's really unfortunate that he had to run to a briefing with the government that he couldn't stay on and finish the show.
Yeah, and then he had a BBC Arabic interview he had to go to. But,
unbelievable. The knowledge this man has,
yeah,
and the information he can deliver, and how he can bring us up to speed and tell the truth about what's going on.
And, it's sad that we don't have a man like that in the position he would have been in a Romney administration, where he'd be advising the president. But there's no way this president is going to want to hear what he would have to say.
I think you have a point there, Marty.
Good point. I know you didn't catch the speech the other night, the State of the Union, but
no, the other night, ironically, I went to the Laker game. What a great opportunity to go to the Laker game.
Yeah.
And Kobe Bryant had the worst game he's ever had. But what really was interesting, I'm sitting in the stands, and all of a sudden they introduced the captains of the team, and then they have the honorary captains. And I'm watching, and it's one of my fraternity brothers as the honorary captain.
You're kidding me.
Unbelievable. So I took my binoculars and followed to where he went. I went over and joined him for a few minutes and chit-chatted with him. I hadn't seen him in probably 10 or 20 years.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's
and he
great.
recognized me right away. That
did
was
he
pretty
really?
Good. Yeah, basically, especially since I've grown so much.
Yeah, did he look at you and say, "Hey, you put on a little bit of weight"?
No, he just said, he said, "You're the same height, aren't you?" But a little bigger around.
Well, getting back for a second to Dr. Ferris, to Waleed. The other night at the State of the Union, President Obama, it's funny, within the first 10 minutes, there had to be 8 or 9 statements he made that were just obviously false on the surface of them. One of them was the Taliban is a shadow of their former self.
We just heard something totally different, didn't we?
Yeah. When I asked Dr. Ferris, he said, "Are you kidding me? They're 10 times larger than they were."
Well, you have to remember where Obama's coming from.
Well, yeah, he wants to make it look like the Taliban, like there is no terrorist threat, which is why Benghazi occurred.
You can't say terrorist.
That's right. That's right.
There is no threat.
That's right. But that's why Benghazi occurred, because he didn't want to admit that there's a definite problem here.
Speaking of Benghazi, where was Obama for 5 to 8 hours? He was missing.
Well, I think there's more to obviously more to the story, but I think it's going to come out in the coming weeks. There's going to be more investigations, and this thing isn't over yet.
I think you're right,
and I hope not, because there's no way this administration should get away with this. One thing we didn't touch with him is the sequester that's happening March 1st, where the Defense Department is going to have all these cuts. Well, how's that going to affect Afghanistan, Iraq, our presence in the Middle East? It's our enemies are getting stronger, and we're going to turn around and get weaker. I'm not too thrilled with this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But and the last question that I had for him that he answered was Israel. I'll make the same prediction I've made on this show before. We're not looking at that long before Israel is going to get to that point where they're going to go, we have to move now, or we can't move.
Well, Israel doesn't come out and tell you what they're going to do,
exactly,
like some leaders of countries do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
but
so
it will happen.
When they decide to move, they'll move. We saw that happen recently in Syria, I believe.
Sure. We'll wake up one morning and Israel will have attacked them. They have no choice.
Well, is it going to be an attack, or is it going to be self-preservation?
Well, it's self-preservation, but to do that, they're going to have to be the aggressor again, but I don't think they're going to have any alternative. So it's just a question of time. And again, that window is closing, and they're aware of it. They're going to get to the point where they can't do anything, and they're going to do something before it gets to that point.
I saw something interesting on the news just prior to the president's talk, where Mrs. Obama had invited the fellow that won the Medal of Honor. He had been given the Medal of Honor the day before President Obama's talk, and Mrs. Obama invited him to come to the White House. And guess what? He declined.
Really?
To come and sit in her booth while he gave his talk.
Was that in the paper?
No, it was on the news. It was on the news.
Oh, I didn't realize. I didn't catch that.
Well, I thought you might know that because you don't read much. I know you listen a lot.
Well, it's when you've got limited social skills, reading is not one of those things that I do a lot of. I listen a lot, but
I know you do. You're a good listener.
Thank you.
So I was reading this past week, I was reading the newspaper, and usually I don't find a lot in the paper. But this past week, there has been a tremendous amount of information coming out of the Bakersfield Californian. And so I'm proud to be a subscriber, as much as some people don't like that paper.
Okay. So you're giving the Californian a plug.
I'm giving them a plug. They do a great job, especially lately. I've really enjoyed reading the papers.
Now, you're thumbing through the paper. Oh, no, by the way, just to let people know, it's just Clay and I for the next, couple minutes because we had a guest cancel on us, which we'll reschedule in March.
I thought I was the guest today.
Okay, we can make you the guest. Why not?
Right.
So I'll ask you questions. What did you find that was so entertaining in the paper?
Well, just reading it in general. Just so many stories that are coming out that are interesting, like the situation with Dorner recently, information on the president's talk, some of the rebuttals from the Republicans, just listening and watching.
Isn't that normally what newspapers do?
Well, they're supposed to, but there's been times when it really hasn't been a very informative paper.
So what makes this paper any different than any other newspaper?
It's just, Marty, stop giving me a hard time. Just this past week.
You wanted to be the guest.
Just this past
I'm quizzing
week.
You.
Oh, okay. This past week, it's been pretty good.
Don't we quiz guests? We're trying to get to the truth
I don't want to be the guest anymore.
Okay. You want to trade places? I'll be the guest. You can ask me questions.
Okay. So, Marty, what do you do for a living?
My name, Jose Jimenez. Badges? We don't need no stinking badges.
No, we keep this up. We're going to end up like that show that used to be on the radio on 1410,
Show this.
What was that lady's name we had on the show a couple weeks ago or a week ago?
Oh, Heather Harrow.
Heather Harrow.
Are you going to pick on Heather?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
she's fun to pick on.
She's such a sweetheart.
That's why I pick on her.
Okay, so let's see. You and I made a couple quick notes. Oh, okay, something I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. As most of you know, I do a lot of books on tape. And
no, you listen to a lot of books on tape.
Well, same difference. I didn't say read. I said do a lot of books on tape.
Well, I thought maybe you meant you were recording them.
No, I didn't say that. I listen to a lot of books on tape.
Okay.
I didn't put emphasis on the wrong syllable. I said it properly. The book I'm listening to now is American Sniper by Chris Kyle, who recently passed away. He was shot at a gun range.
Well, he didn't pass away. He was murdered.
Well, okay, same difference. But
He's
anyways,
dead.
He's dead.
All right.
He's dead. And a great book. I highly, highly recommend it. And it's a little freaky in light of the fact that he just passed away. Certain things he said, like he made the comment about, he had over 150 confirmed kills. And he said, I have no problem with any of these shots that I took. He said, in fact, when I do stand in front of my maker, I feel confident in what I had done. That's a little weird, knowing that now he has stood in front of his maker.
Right.
Right. But it brought up to me a question that when I was in the Marines, I didn't have any qualms with it. I mean, if I would have had to shoot somebody, I wouldn't have given it a second thought. But
they actually gave you a weapon?
They actually gave me a weapon. Gave me an M14 and an M16.
I'll bet it wasn't loaded.
Yes, it was. Oh. But anyways, several years later, when I started having a family, I started having second thoughts about whether or not it was right as a Christian to kill somebody. Now, I've since long gone to the point where, I wouldn't have any problems defending my family in shooting somebody. But it does bring up that question. And I know in your case, Clay, you have a gun, you've got a permit for it. I mean, would you have any qualms about pulling that thing and firing it?
It would depend on the situation. I'd have a hard time shooting somebody, but if they're attacking me or attacking someone in my family, I think I'd be able to do it.
You think?
Oh, I hope so.
Okay, see, because that's always my question is, if somebody isn't sure that they would take that shot, then maybe it's something they shouldn't be around, because if you hesitate, you're the one that's going to be dead.
Well, that's possible.
Okay,
that's possible. But
okay.
You don't want to shoot the wrong time and the wrong person.
Right. I mean, there's a thought process there, but when you're in that situation, it's something you have to have made the decision beforehand, because when you get to that situation, you can't hesitate. You have to act, because if you don't act, again, you could be the person that could be dead. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of family members that I would not have a loaded gun at home, for the simple reason that they're not sure if they could take that shot or not. And if you're not sure if you can take the shot, then don't put yourself in that situation.
Well, let me tell you this, Marty. I think everyone should own a gun. Unfortunately, I disagree with the president's views. But everywhere where people carry guns, there's less crime. Mm-hmm. Where guns are restricted or you're not allowed to own them, such as Chicago, it's terrible with crime.
Yes.
So
yes, I highly
recommend. In Switzerland, I think everybody's supposed to have an automatic weapon in their house.
Well, and actually, almost everybody has to take some kind of weapon training.
Well, that's part of owning a weapon. You need to be trained.
Sure, definitely.
You need to be trained.
Yeah. Listen, when we come back from the break, let's talk about one of, I know, your favorite subjects a little bit, which is health care. Not that there's anything going on with health care.
Well, I think I've got some interesting information that a lot of people around this country are going to be excited about.
And I want to intro that with something that the President said the other night when we come back.
Alrighty.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Current Radio News Talk 1180.